woman is available to you. Every time you call her, she's there. Every time you need her, she's there. You text her, she answers. You call her, she chooses. She is 100% committed to you. Available for you. Don't take this woman for granted.
Picture this. You're scrolling through social media when suddenly you see the most chaotic video imaginable. A woman is literally screaming in the middle of a lake after crashing her car, claiming she's about to die. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. This entire disaster started because her husband decided to serve her divorce papers right at the airport as she was heading out on a girls' trip. Today we're diving into one of the most unhinged relationship meltdowns I've ever witnessed, and trust me, you're not ready for how wild this gets. What happens when someone thinks they can call their partner's bluff about ultimatums? Well, you're about to find out exactly why some boundaries shouldn't be tested. This story has everything: public freakouts, airport drama, police encounters, and a woman who clearly never learned that actions have consequences. By the end of this video, you'll understand why communication and respect are absolutely crucial in relationships and what happens when those foundations completely crumble. So the story begins with what should have been a simple girls' trip. You know the type. A weekend getaway with friends, some Instagram photos, maybe a spa day. Sounds harmless enough, right? But apparently this particular trip had been a source of ongoing tension in their marriage. According to various accounts, the husband had made it crystal clear that he wasn't comfortable with this specific trip. Whether it was the destination, the friends involved, or the timing, something about this getaway had set off major red flags for him. Now, I want to be clear here. In healthy relationships, partners should generally support each other's friendships and need for personal time. But there's obviously more to this story. The husband didn't just randomly decide to be controlling one day. There were likely warning signs, previous incidents, or specific concerns that led to him drawing this particular line in the sand. Here's where things get really interesting.
Success is 1% luck, 2% talent, 20% being a team player, and 77% never giving up. Be honorable.
Instead of having an adult conversation about his concerns, instead of trying to understand why he felt this way, she decided to test him. She probably thought he was bluffing when he said there would be consequences if she went anyway. She likely figured he'd cool off while she was gone and everything would go back to normal when she returned. But that's not what happened. Not even close. Picture the scene at the airport. She's probably feeling excited, maybe a little rebellious about going despite his objections. Her bags are packed, she's ready for her adventure, and then boom! Divorce papers, right there in the terminal, in front of other travelers. The humiliation must have been absolutely crushing. Now, I've seen a lot of relationship drama in my time, but serving divorce papers at an airport, that's next level. It sends a very clear message that this wasn't an impulsive decision made in anger. This was planned. He had already contacted lawyers, had the papers drawn up, and chose the most public, definitive moment possible to end their marriage. The psychological impact of this timing cannot be overstated. She thought she was calling his bluff, but instead she discovered that he was deadly serious about his boundaries. The trip that was supposed to be her moment of independence became the moment her entire life changed forever. But wait, it gets worse. Instead of handling this devastating news with any kind of dignity, she completely unraveled. And I mean completely. We're talking about a grown woman having what can only be described as an epic public meltdown that makes toddler tantrums look sophisticated by comparison. The airport incident was just the beginning. Airport security had to get involved because she refused to accept what was happening. She was demanding water, coloring, and a children's book, and telling authority figures no like a defiant child. She even claimed she was going to be the first female president of the United States. The second-hand embarrassment is real, people. When they told her she needed to get off the plane, she literally said no and kept coloring.
The reason why women regret losing a good man is because she realizes that she was actually the problem, but her immaturity blinded her from actually seeing that and loving him correctly.
Can you imagine being a fellow passenger witnessing this? You're trying to get to your destination and suddenly you're trapped in someone else's relationship drama because a grown woman doesn't understand that no means no. The police eventually had to physically remove her from the aircraft. She was screaming, crying, and causing such a scene that they had to deplane everyone else. Think about that for a moment. Her inability to handle rejection disrupted hundreds of other people's travel plans. The lack of self-awareness is staggering. But the airport was just the warm-up act. The real chaos happened after she somehow made it to her destination anyway. Despite being served divorce papers and removed from a plane, she apparently still went on this trip. The determination is almost admirable if it wasn't so completely unhinged. This is where we get to the lake incident I mentioned at the beginning. She's driving, presumably while emotionally distraught, and crashes her car near or into a lake. She's literally in the middle of water, claiming she's going to die and recording herself the entire time. The level of drama is so over the top that it feels like a parody of itself. What strikes me most about this whole situation is the complete inability to take responsibility for her choices. At every step of this disaster, she had opportunities to make better decisions. She could have listened to her husband's concerns about the trip. She could have handled the divorce papers with dignity. She could have accepted the airport situation gracefully. She could have called someone for help instead of driving while emotionally unstable. Instead, she chose chaos at every single turn. And throughout all of this, she positioned herself as the victim.
I tried to give you something that you never had. I tried so hard to love the hurt out of you, to show you what safety feels like, and to prove that not everyone leaves. But I learned, hurt doesn't just leave because love arrives.
She's the one being wronged. She's the one being treated unfairly. Everyone else is the problem. The mental gymnastics required to maintain that perspective while literally causing public disturbances is honestly impressive in the worst possible way. This brings up a crucial point about modern relationships and accountability. In this age of social media and instant validation, some people have lost the ability to self-reflect when things go wrong. Instead of asking themselves what they could have done differently, they immediately look for external validation that they're the victim in every situation. The truth is, relationships require compromise from both parties. They require honest communication about boundaries and concerns. They require the maturity to sometimes say no to things that might hurt your partner, even if you don't fully understand their perspective. And most importantly, they require accepting that if you choose to cross clearly stated boundaries, there might be consequences you're not prepared for. This entire saga could have been avoided with basic adult communication skills. A simple conversation about why the trip was important to her and why it concerned him might have led to a compromise. Maybe she could have chosen different companions or a different destination or different timing. Maybe they could have planned a couples trip instead. Maybe they could have addressed whatever underlying issues were making him uncomfortable with her social circle. But instead of having that conversation, she chose to test his resolve. She gambled with her marriage and lost spectacularly. And rather than accepting that loss with grace, she proceeded to have the most public, most documented breakdown in recent memory. The aftermath of this situation serves as a perfect example of what happens when emotional regulation goes completely out the window. This woman went from being a wife to being a viral video cautionary tale in the span of a few hours. Her inability to process difficult emotions like an adult turned what could have been a private relationship issue into public entertainment. Looking at this situation objectively, both parties probably could have handled things better. But there's a massive difference between making poor communication choices and having a multi-location public meltdown that involves law enforcement, airport security, and apparently a car accident.
So I don't know who needs to hear this, but fuck what they think. Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's strangers, whether it's people who love you, who don't like you at all, fuck what they think. We live in a world where we have so many big dreams.
The scale of the response tells us everything we need to know about the underlying issues in this relationship. So, what can we learn from this absolute disaster? First, take your partner's concerns seriously, even if you don't immediately understand them. Second, understand that ultimatums in relationships are serious business. If someone is willing to end the relationship over something, they're probably not bluffing. Third, when faced with devastating news, your response defines you more than the news itself. And finally, maybe don't drive while having an emotional breakdown, and definitely don't record yourself during said breakdown. This story perfectly illustrates why emotional maturity is so crucial in relationships. When two people can't communicate effectively about their needs and boundaries, when they resort to testing each other instead of talking to each other, when they choose public drama over private resolution, the relationship is already over. The divorce papers were just making it official. The real tragedy here isn't that the marriage ended. Sometimes marriages need to end when people are fundamentally incompatible or unwilling to work together. The tragedy is that it ended in such a spectacularly public way that will follow both of them forever. Their private relationship issues became internet entertainment, and that's something neither of them can take back. Remember, folks, healthy relationships are built on trust, communication, and mutual respect. When any of those elements are missing, you get situations like this one. Don't be the person having a meltdown in an airport. Don't be the P.